Wow. I don't know about you, but man alive, titled the show today, How in the World Can the Dems Win This Election? I mean, I've got so many clips pulled up, but I know that I'm not going to bore you guys. You've gone over the clips just like I did. In fact, I couldn't sleep very well last night, so I ended up just replaying. I actually played it twice. It was 27 minutes was the interview. The interview was supposed to be a half hour. She was supposed to arrive at 5 o'clock in studio with Brett Baer, Fox News, and she arrived around 5:15, 5:20. Obviously, a lack of total disrespect to Brett, but also just that it doesn't surprise me, right? I mean, this is who she is, Kamala Harris. But um, it threw off the scheduling, obviously, and then they quickly tried to abort, no pun intended, the Dems trying to abort the mission of being on Fox News early because it got very heated, very uncomfortable. I've got some clips. I'm going to share a little bit about that today. I've got other things happening today. As promised on Tuesday, we have Chad Burke, county board candidate here in Central Illinois. I know many of you are not from Illinois that load up the show, but Chad is with us. He's running for County Board District 5. He's got a formidable incumbent opponent in Elizabeth Johnston. We'll get into that, talking about that. Then towards the latter half of the show, I've got Jim Rule, chairman of the Tazewell County Republicans. They had Sheriff Matt Lamb. I think I got that right. Matt Lamb. I think it's right. Sheriff Lamb from Arizona at a function that they had about a week ago. I also have, and I just saw her pop into studio, so I'm going to get her in here too. That be none other than the cat. You know her well, conservative Cat Peterson. She doesn't go by that anymore. She goes by Katrina Barker because she has a new last name. Because she is now married. So once again, I do want to kind of touch on this about Kamala. If you had an opportunity, please, or you haven't had an opportunity, go and watch the 27-minute interview. It is worth the 27 minutes of your life to understand how in the world can the Dems win this election. As I said early on when they switched hitters, jumped from Biden to Harris, that it was going to be their mission to get her off the launch pad. There is no way. I don't even know if they fired the rockets, because there is a certain site that I follow called Polymarket, and it is one of the largest predictors of all things around the world of how betting. It's basically betting who's going to win. And they were together for a while after the announcement, after the nomination, but quickly now in the last week, Trump's numbers are soaring. She's not. So with that, you can hear some of my guests. They actually have animals and Cat, as I clicked you on, I had Chad coming on at the same time, and his device says not connected. So hopefully he can try to reconnect.
Yeah,
Well,
hopefully.
I'm glad you were able to jump on and get on with us here. Let me add Chad. Let me add Chad real quick because I see that he's back on. There he is, Chad. Oh, and the cat.
Yep, there we go. Oh, we got the cat.
You said you heard animals. You couldn't hear this little guy.
Cat,
this cat,
with her,
fun fact.
Cat with her cat. Cat, what's your cat's name?
His name is Panther. Fun fact. Oh, he's upset. So he would have been banned had a specific piece of legislation gone through where they ban hybrids of Savannah cats. So he is part Savannah cat. And he's a hybrid. So he hisses a lot of the time, and he just kind of is like bigger, and he swims. So he's, yeah. So the state of Illinois.
Why? What is he? What do you mean he swims?
He swims.
He goes a
So
little
like
wild. He goes a
he
little wild and
waits
does laps.
he waits outside the bathroom, waits for us
Okay.
to turn on the shower, and he likes to stick his head in there. And then
Okay.
he jumps into his water bowl. So I've had to adjust his water bowl and only do the fountain because he'll swim in his water bowl. He likes playing with it. I don't know what it is. It's just Savannah
Wow.
cats. They act peculiar, and at least this is what the vet said. I was like, "What's wrong with him?" He keeps hissing at me. Is he mad at me? And then he'll purr, and I'm so confused. And he's like, "No, he's just he's a Savannah hybrid." And they were looking to outlaw those in the state of Illinois because one person got all but hurt because they encountered a Savannah cat or a serval cat. Serval cats, Savannah cats, kangaroos. They tried to ban those in the state of Illinois. So, people who have zoos or operate zoos out of their house. But my little kitty was grandfathered in because they amended the
Aw.
law. So I don't have to get rid of them. According to the state of it, I wouldn't get rid of them even if they didn't pass it. No. Sorry. Come and take it.
Fun
Come and
fact.
take it.
Fun fact when you have Kat on the DPB show. So Kat and Chad, I saw we lost connection with you, and I'm glad we have you back. There he is, Chad Burke, running for County Board District 5 here in Central Illinois in McLean County. We're going to get to talking to Chad because there's some things. You were on Kat's show just the other day, so I want to kind of highlight a little bit of those bright spots. But Kat, did you get an opportunity to watch some of the clips of the debacle as Ryan Mack, who is not with us today? Ryan is suffering a little upper respiratory. So I told him, Ryan, take care of yourself. Just chillax, relax. But did you get an opportunity to watch any of the interview with Brett Baer?
Yes, I did. Yep. Saw most of it. My favorite part was when he called out her complicity and covering up Joe Biden's mental decline. So that was my favorite part of the interview.
Well, actually, I know I have that clip, and I might be able to get to it and jump it on here, but it's amazing. And in fact, I think I have that with the Poly Market stat that runs simultaneously. Let's see if that's the one that I grabbed as I'm trying to share, but it's saying, I wonder if I'm over the ability to grab people since I have so many tabs open on because it's not letting me share. Hold on,
Let
let
me
me
share.
see. No, it's not letting me click on. What's going on here? I've never had this happen, but maybe because I have. Now it's not letting me X out of it. Oh, it said your browser blocked it. Hold on. This is what happens when you don't have a producer, Kat. I am the producer. No, that's not true. I have a producer. I have Mrs. Producer behind the scene. There she is, right there. Let me see. I got it. Not that one. Not that one. It was a side by side. Well, here's Poly Market, so
The
I'm going to
Poly
share
Market.
it. No, I've got it right here. I thought I had the video that simultaneously was running with the interview with the contradiction that Kamala kept making when she was confronted about the fact that she was talking about Trump's mental decline, and then finally he just flipped the script on her and said, speaking of mental declines, weren't you part of the mental decline of Biden, and didn't you see this, and when did you see it? When did you first start to realize that Joe Biden wasn't the same Joe Biden of years gone by? And of course, she quickly pivoted and wouldn't answer the question and said that Joe Biden wasn't on the ballot. So,
Right.
fascinating. But this Poly Market shows the percentage of where things are at now. I mean, the graphic was taken as of last night, and here Trump and Kamala were running side by side. Now 62% is what they're predicting is the odds that Trump is going to be the president versus the 38% for Kamala Harris. I do notice that Wisconsin and Michigan, Pennsylvania, obviously that's kind of the windfall of the different swing states that are now kind of teetering on going in favor of Trump. But
what changed to make those numbers move? Was it based on the debate basically last night between Brett Baer and Vice President Harris.
Well, I think Chad and Kat, you correct me if I'm wrong here. It's more than that, because it started here over the weekend is when the numbers, and like I said, I wish I had the actual real time in motion from like September something, and as it runs through October, and it changes through the different debacles. I mean, she decided to, whomever, I don't think Kamala decided this, somebody decided this for her, that she was now going to go out and be publicly in front of the people, and whether it was The View, whether it was Stephen Colbert, whether it was getting on with Brett Baer, that she was going to, throw the Hail Mary pass, because that's where she's at right now. I mean, if
Right.
you listen, part of the show entitled, how in the world can the Dems win this election? Kamala's in full, we're 19 days and Kamala's in full meltdown. I mean, however, you can't take anything for granted, because ultimately, there's plenty in the works behind the scenes, and I pulled up some tabs, and I've got some things that I could share quickly. For instance, in Virginia, Glenn Youngkin was able to remove illegal immigrants from the voting rolls. And the DOJ steps in and says, no, you can't do that so close to an election. Within a certain period of time, you can't be removing people from the rolls, even though we know that they're illegal immigrants, not American citizens. So they shouldn't be on the voter rolls in the first place. Another example of that is the Georgia judge that just ruled that these counties have to certify, whether there's fraud or not, they have to certify. I mean, so they're kind of setting the stage on what's going to happen, because it is the Hail Mary. They don't have this. This is why it's so important that people get out to the polls ahead of election day, because the ability for them to kind of start to measure the same day, game day, I call it game day, too big to rig, the game day voting, they can't front load it. And that's the problem they're having. A lot of states, they can't even touch the ballots until 7 a.m. in the morning of election day.
Right.
So, which, it's amazing that a lot of states are able to process their vote by mail ballots, but some other states like Pennsylvania say, well, we're going to need at least 4 days. No, you don't need 4 days. Florida can count their ballots and get everything online within 3 or 4 hours, hire additional people. It's not, I don't know. The elections have been happening every 2 years, for a very long period of time, every 2 and then every 4 years for president, for a very long time. Why don't you prepare the electoral process to mimic what's going to happen, which now that we're utilizing vote by mail ballots, I would be prepared to start opening and tabulating vote by mail ballots. And now to hear some of the exercises in futility that go on with the process of opening up vote by mail ballots, where you have 3 or 4 people. Granted, dual signature verification is pretty consistent across the board, because there's very few things we can hang on to in the voting process. And Kat and I were talking about this a little earlier, Chad. Whether it's a vote by mail ballot, or whether you go in person and to vote, there should be 2 people, preferably a Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Democrat, Green Party, Republican, but 2 people should be verifying signatures.
Correct.
And so this is the moving of the cheese that they still have in their back pocket. Now, voting early, and for us to go and vote early, it throws that off. And that's why everyone that you're listening to now, whether it's the actual Trump campaign and everyone involved with the Trump campaign, whether you're hearing it from commentators like myself, Dan Bongino, and a plethora of others, go out and vote. Vote now. I was doing a big push as soon as early voting started on September 26th. I was telling people I wanted you out to the polls within the first 10 days, and take as many people as you can. Find out if they're registered. Call everyone you know. Don't leave any stone unturned. because we're finding voters all over the place, or eligible voters who aren't even registered. So I think that Mrs. Producer there, my beautiful wife, just put it up. 2 judges from different political parties verify each signature. So I know that's a long rabbit hole to go down, but see, this is the essence. When you have a nation in flux, Kat, and that's why I guess I asked the question, did you see the interview? Because bottom line is how in the world can the Dems win this election? This is their
I don't think
candidate.
that they do. That's the thing is I don't think that they do, but I don't know. We'll have to see. And if they do win it, it's going to be a steal. Now, the tricky thing is I don't know how they're going to be able to steal it with the early voting or anything like that. I think that it's the vote by mail ballots. It really is. There have been several instances across the state where there's nefarious things going on. I don't want to say nefarious, just accidents, mistakes that will add up if not completely corrected. Cook County, 300 ballots, they went out and they didn't even have the bubble for the Libertarian candidate for the circuit clerk. Okay. And then you've got, I mean, this has been going on for years since we've done the vote by mail ballots. In the primary, it happened in Will County twice, once with the vote by mail ballots, but also, you know, you as a voter, when you go in and you vote early and in person, you have to be looking out for, is my ballot style correct? Because you go into your polling location, you have a specific ballot style. You have a set precinct that you're supposed to be voting in, and it varies. The candidates vary depending on that precinct. And you have a ballot style that is assigned to that polling place. And if they give you the wrong ballot style, which happened in Will County this past primary, then you've got people voting from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the wrong ballot style. And I mean, do you correct all of that? Can you correct all of that? You know, you've had X amount of people coming in to the polling location. And voting the wrong ballot style. I don't know if you can correct all of that. These clerks will tell you up and down that they can correct every single mistake that has ever happened. Be on the lookout for these mistakes and correct the mistake before you cast your ballot. You need to find out what the mistake is.
Well,
and make sure you have the correct ballot.
So in real time, they can supposedly correct, but I mean, these inaccuracies that are already occurring, and we know of ones on our local county, we know of ballots. I talked about this a couple weeks or a couple shows ago about the fact that there were 100, the same vendor, and this is a vendor that's popular throughout the United States. It sounds like they do ballots. Not only the people who did the ballots for McLean County, Illinois, did the ballots in Nevada. We were talking about that. I know I don't want to give too much of your show away tomorrow, Kat. And you're working on an article that deals with this. These third-party vendors are sending these vote by mail ballots out where they have a return envelope, and then they don't even have the accurate return envelope. So they might have the correct ballot. They just don't have an envelope where it's going to arrive back at their election authority or the county where they're supposed to be voting in. I mean, and I know it sounds like it's a nickel dime because it's not a whole host of them. It's not a million, but as I've said often and frequently from behind this mic, it doesn't take a lot to move an election. And so you want accuracy to be the utmost when it comes to protecting a fair and free election. And so it doesn't help the cause because if it's happening in Will County, McLean County, if wherever in Nevada, if it's happening in Wisconsin, if it's happening in Michigan, especially when we're talking about Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, the swing states. Can you imagine what's going on there? You know, we have all of this scrambling, and I guess that's the biggest concern. That's why I'm encouraging everyone to get out and vote. And if you think there's something that, you know, and I can't tell you that most people even know, right? because
Be
they give
an educated voter. Be an
Yes.
educated voter. Know who you're going in to vote for. Know their name. Know how it's spelled.
Yeah.
Know what party they're affiliated with. Know what. Even call up your county clerk and ask them, "Hey, I live at this address, and what ballot style should I have? Should I
Right.
have?" They'll give you a number or a letter. Depends. It varies on counties. They'll give you what type of ballot you should be voting on and find your sample ballot. That's the best way, and print
That's
it
the
out
best
and
way.
memorize it.
Yep.
Well, and that's another way we talked about it on the DPB show that you can get your vote by mail. In fact, you still qualify here where I live, and I know that North Carolina actually just opened up early voting today. North Carolina has their early voting, and it runs through November 2nd. But you can get a vote by mail ballot, and so now that's a live ballot. Now you're going to want to take care of that ballot. I've shared with you, I do not believe that you should turn it back over to the United States Postal Service. You want to hand deliver that to your election authority. And if possible, in some cases they won't do it, but if possible, have that ballot spoiled and go ahead and vote live right there. But make sure that you write on there spoiled on the envelope, on the ballot, and they come with an envelope, or at least that's what they did when I went out to our voting center. They came out with an envelope. I stuffed it in the envelope. They sealed it. My wife was with me, so she also spoiled hers. They put both of them in there. So, I mean, there are things you can do to protect your vote. However, as you said, Kat, most people aren't educated about that. And here we have a candidate who's on the ballot in McLean County. Now, not in a very big area of McLean County, but a significant area in the District 5 County Board race. And Chad, this is your first go around. Tell the audience what it is that you're finding out. Maybe some of the top things that just blew you away when you decided to run for office that you didn't think were going to happen.
One of the big ones that I found out was when you and I both were when we went. Sorry. When we went up,
it's like President Trump when the baby's crying. Don't worry.
It is.
We love dogs, and we love
dogs
cats
and babies,
and we love ducks, and we love geese, and yeah, we have all the animals. Go ahead.
When you and I went for the interview, and how they don't really respect or do proper research on your background, or call ahead and ask you in private about things, and they bring it up hoping to get you with that gotcha moment, where they say, "Oh, hey, Mr. Burke," in a very whispered tone, broken question, "Can you tell us about your arrest?" Which I kind of expected. That was a big learning curve right there at that moment. Getting your signs stolen, not respecting property of other people.
I know it's a tough one to talk about, and I think it's important you talk about it because it is part of what we've talked about. We've talked about it so often here in the state of Illinois, County McLean, but not only County McLean, counties, 102 counties throughout the state of Illinois. We obviously are not unified because there's different people believe because we are a blue state. And unfortunately, that's not the way it's always been. Going back, you can go back to 2001. We weren't a blue state, so 23 years ago.
Yeah.
But for the last 23 years, we've been a blue state. Now we're fighting the inner fighting within the party.
Yeah.
On how you're going to move forward. Who's going to be the
that
chief?
Was really a big surprise. It's really tough when you come in. You think someone's on your team. And then you're told, you have to go move a sign aside because you're too close to one of your own teammates. That was rough.
Real quick, can I jump in just really quick? Yeah. I just gotta say this really quick. You're not alone, Chad, because I just found out something, and I won't get into all the details because, quite frankly, I just don't have this person's permission. But what's going on at a state level is also happening at a county level.
It
At a
is.
state level, you're hearing of, and I've heard of, several statewide candidates from the House and from the Senate where their funding has been pulled from the Illinois GOP in the coming weeks. Why would they do that? Why would you pull funding right before an election, a crucial election, most important election of our lifetimes? Well, because they're freaked out about the incumbent Republicans are freaked out about their 2026 election, and they did a wink wink nudge nudge with the Democrats, the supermajority Democrats, who are there saying, hey, if you pull all your funding out of the senates or the Senate races, the state races, if you do that, wink wink nudge nudge, we're gonna make sure that that you aren't gerrymandered out of your district, and the maps are drawn when the maps are drawn, or we won't run somebody against you in 2026. The Illinois GOP and the local GOP, people within it, they sabotage the election, and everybody always wonders, why the hell aren't we winning? The reason we aren't winning is because there's sabotaging going on, and I'm getting pretty sick and tired of it. Sick and tired. Sorry, had to jump in because I found that out today.
that's
pulling funding from candidates at a crucial time right now. What are you doing?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna hop off.
Not only is that sad, that's disgusting. It's not surprising, unfortunately. It's really sad to hear that. We're all on the same team, and that's my wife brings it up often. When you compare it to unfortunately, the Democrats, they, regardless of whether they agree on anything, they stick together. Look at their signage. They are all together, whether they agree on a couple simple little or disagree. They work together. They're a team. They're usually pretty tight.
Yeah,
we can't even agree to back the president.
Yeah,
we have anti-Trumpers, we have MAGA supporters, and argue about that. Who are you going to vote for if you're not going to vote for President Trump? That's my big question. Regardless if you like the man personally, he is going to either be our president or not. And as a Republican Party, we either are going to support him, or who are you going to vote for? Harris? That's my question to those.
Chad,
it's sad.
Yeah.
And
I know basic fundamental decision you have to make as a GOP Republican, whether you're conservative or not. We can't come together as a party around our candidate. And that's disturbing coming into this as a new candidate, that's one divider that I have to deal with, that they don't want my sign around a Trump sign. It's very disappointing to have people in the party.
Not your signs. There are candidates that don't want to have their signs close by a Trump sign.
Don't want my sign next to a Trump sign.
They don't,
because they want to try to give me advice. Then they don't want my sign next to their candidate sign.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And all these little things, these little inner groupings and cliques that goes on.
The cliques.
You can't have this. We're all a group. We're all a team, and we have to be together. We don't have the resources, number one, to split. And that's what the Democrats are doing. They're splitting us.
Yes. Well, and I see that Jim Rule, chairman of the Tazewell County Republicans, is in the wings, and we've talked about this. And this is why having you on today obviously is a great thing. Having Kat on, because I know Kat's working on a bunch of things. Good. And she's hearing it, she's getting it, she's digging deep for the story of why it is that the Republicans do what they do. But this is the beautiful thing about Trump. Trump created a movement outside of the Republican Party. And if that weren't the case, you wouldn't see the numbers that he is pulling at if he were to solely rely upon the fickleness of the Republican Party, because it can be very fickle, especially in a blue state. That's the battle you're having. I know that, and I applaud you for getting involved politically and running for a county board district. I wish that we could have had all county board members sit down at a table, all the candidates and the incumbents sit down at a table and truly work together as
I do
one
too.
unified voice, because we know
Yes.
that our opponents, the people that we oppose, they're going to work together in one unified voice. And
Yes.
and instead, you're right, Chad, as somebody that's willing to put their time, talent, and treasure on the line, it's not always easy. In fact, I think that's a good segue, because I see he's in the waiting room. I'm going to join him or add him to the stage. There he is, Jim Rule. You know him, you love him, chairman of the Tazewell County Republicans. I know you've been listening a little bit, Jim, and I don't know you. I think the irony is, I think you and Chad were on the last time when Chad was on together,
I believe so.
I believe so.
or
Yes,
maybe
sir.
that was Ryan McKenzie. I can't remember. But Chad Burke, if you haven't met, Chad's obviously served our country in the Army. Jim served in the Navy. There'll be a game somewhere around December 4th that'll decide who has the bragging rights this year.
That's right.
But Chad's running for County Board District 5 against a formidable opponent because she's an incumbent. She has been given a lot of leeway by the McLean County Republicans who are on the board, and she somewhat has propelled herself. But that's who Chad will be taking on. But I don't know, Jim, your thoughts. I mean, I know that we're 19 days away from an election.
19, yeah.
And the time that, who was it? I saw it up on, I think, Twitter. They said, you don't really see the involvement of the Republican Party. And I know that this is the home stretch. I don't care what is going on out there right now in the world of personalities. We've got to come together and get as many people out there and be a unified voice. I believe the people have gotten really lost interest in listening a lot about what's going on the party level. They're taking it upon themselves just to get involved. What do you think, Jim?
I completely agree. I mean, we knock on doors as precinct committee people, and we hear the same thing. Oh, they throw their hands up. I'm so sick of the party. I'm so sick of the politics. But we are at, Thomas Paine, a long time ago, wrote The American Crisis. We are at a crisis right now in this country. And it's either going to go one way or the other, as Abraham Lincoln said right before the outbreak of the Civil War. He said, I believe the nation will not fail, but it'll either go one way or the other. And that's where we're at this juncture right now. And people are so fed up. They're so disengaged that it's, we could very well lose this thing. So we've got to get more and more people involved. And that's why we try to create a buzz. We try to talk to people. We have events that will, educate and inform people and try to get them more involved and more active, regardless of what level.
Well, and we now have a new state party chair. And right. I believe, I know a lot of people are like, is she the person? Is she not the person? You know what? What I've grown to learn about Kathy Salvi is she epitomizes being a unifier, not a divider. Yep. We had a meeting the other night. Jim was party to that meeting. I'll sit down at the table with everyone, but we've got to come back to the basics. And I know that 3 weeks ago, I think, or 2 weeks ago, we have a platform, a Republican platform. We understand the basics. I think it was the Freedom Caucus. It's Colin Mosley I had on. And he said there's about 3 things that I believe all Republicans can agree upon. And we need to stick to those foundational things and not waver, because the Democrats, that's what they do. Mm-hmm. They don't waver from their talking points. There's not a lot of infighting. And if there is, which we know there is, I mean, there's definitely Kamala's in the midst of a meltdown. They know now that they probably have a worse candidate than Joe Biden was. But at the state level, at the county board level, where we're fighting, where really the rubber meets the road, we've got to be unified, because ultimately they will put their presidential candidate sign in the yard right next to their county board member, right next to their state rep.
And the thing about that, David Paul, is just because we're unified does not mean that we agree on everything.
Exactly.
Right? And part of the problem with today's Republican is that if you and I don't agree on every single item, then you're going to exclude me, and I'm a rhino, that type of thing.
Yep.
And we got to get past that. I mean, that was one of the things Reagan's legacy had. He said, if we can agree on 80% of the issues, then we can move forward. And we find those things that are common ground, and we move forward. And Republicans have to get much, much better at doing that.
And I think right now we can define, at least on the state level, the national level, and I believe in the county level too. I think running for a county board, people are concerned about the same things. Where are my tax dollars being spent? How much is it going to cost me to live in this county or in this state? What is the crime? I've got plenty of tabs that I have open here, and I might share a couple of those with you guys. That we know that they report things incorrectly, unintentionally. This is the FBI report. I mean, they'll go on a diatribe of the
1,700 more murders.
Yeah, and suddenly that changes around. So we know that crime, we don't have to be told by mainstream media or any federal agency. We know that crime is up because we can see it when we're out and about and just going along with our lives. We know the cost of goods. We know all of these things. And these are the things I think that can truly unite us as Republicans. Is we care about our country. Illegal immigration, no, not good for the country. We know that. We need a secure border. We know that we need to get control of government spending, because there's only one thing that causes inflation. One thing and one thing only. Actually, it's two things. I'm sorry, I misspoke. The federal government spending and printing money. It's the only two factors that cause inflation. And that's on the national level. And there's only so much we can do about that other than put in place people who are going to go in there and fight. Unfortunately, we're finding that, are we really fighting these days for that 35 trillion for our children and our grandchildren? Are we truly trying to get away from inflation, get away from crime? Because ultimately it's systemic. Everything's going, and I did use the word systemic. I know our friends on the left love to use that, but it affects and impacts everything. When you start having high crime, when you start having high cost of goods, high cost of living, people start to lose, as Jim was saying earlier, they start losing confidence and hope. I know one of the things I had Jim on for is you heard a great message. I wasn't able to attend the event with Sheriff Lamb. Here's a guy that's out on a border state, a real border state. I know that we're all border states now because illegal immigration has impacted all 50 states. But Sheriff Lamb lives on a border state. Talk a little bit about what Sheriff Lamb had to say.
The guy really had a powerful, powerful message. And I first want to start by saying, we've had a lot of speakers here in Tazewell County for various events that we've had over the years, since I've been in office anyway. And you can tell if people are real, are authentic, are genuine, fairly quick after you begin a conversation with them. This guy is the real deal. I mean, he's authentic. He's an American patriot. The first thing he did when he got on stage was to introduce himself. And he described himself as an American patriot who believes in God, country, and family. And he had me at that point.
Right.
Because when I took office 6.5 years ago, that's the first thing that we did in Tazewell County was change our logo. Not only the picture, but we added a tagline: God, country, and family, because that's what this nation is for, is about. And so he had me then. But he talked about the border. He talked about the problems of the border and how it manifests itself to the rest of the country. And the numbers that he gave are staggering. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, the women that end up in sex trafficking and labor, the children, over 325,000 children have come across that border and are known to be now in sex slave jobs or hard labor type jobs.
Yeah.
The fentanyl is a whole
nother mess. Yeah.
I mean, talk about terrorism in this country. Here is China supplying fentanyl to the cartels. The cartels bring it across the border and kill 100,000 men and women between the ages of 18 and 45 every year without firing a single shot. Mm-hmm. That's fentanyl poisoning.
Yep.
And that's the problems that we're facing. That's the crisis that we're in. And look,
you know, go ahead.
The Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration has had 3.5 years to do something about it, and they've not done a damn thing.
Well, but it's also true, isn't it, at the state level? I mean, you listen to the national politicians, as our debt increases, as the immigration debacle crisis continues, as prices are spiking, it's happening in Illinois. J.B. Pritzker has been governor now for over 4 years. Actually, if my calculations serve me right, he's going into his 7th year of being the governor of Illinois. And if you listen to J.B. Pritzker, he's going to tell you everything is
peachy.
Rainbow and unicorns, right? Rainbow and unicorns.
We're gaining in census, everything. Yeah.
And in certain counties, and I know there are counties that are somewhat insulated, and they're only insulated because people have been prudent enough to withhold and to save resources for such a time as this. And I don't believe the cost of living is in central Illinois. Is it tough? Of course it is. You see people suffering, you know, the homeless population in every county in Illinois. And this is even your smaller rural counties has picked up homelessness. Food pantries are part of the landscape now everywhere you go. I just was by one the other day. I was like, wow, this is a very small town. And sure enough, the church had the food pantry sign out because we know people are struggling. So they've had all these years. Our elected officials have had it. And when they convene and they come together as a county board, as a state general assembly, or as Congress, they tend to make us believe they're truly working at changing these things, but they're not. The things aren't changing. So we do have to. I loved what Mark Robinson said. Dan Bongino shared a clip of Mark saying, we got to get rid of all these people because ultimately I don't want people in office that want to be there.
Correct.
He talked about the young lad that was hitting the beaches of Normandy. And when they asked him, do you want to be here? He said, no, I don't want to be here. But the Japanese have bombed Pearl Harbor. The Hitler's advancing through Europe. And my country and my family is at stake.
Right.
That's why I'm here. Not because I want to be. And if truly people running for office desired to be there because of those values, God, family, country, God, country, family, this world would be a different place. Instead, what it's become is a cesspool of people bilking and fleecing the taxpayers at the expense of these people who now have to stand. Not to say that everybody's standing in a food line is because of things that have happened governmentally. Sometimes there's things beyond our control that happen. But this is the only way we're going to get our country back. This is the only way we're going to get our state back, our counties back. But here in central Illinois, we have weathered it, but the attack is great. Jim, I mean, I know, Chad, you've seen it, because as a newcomer to getting involved politically, you see it played out right before you. When you go to the county board meetings, you would swear that we live in one of the most prosperous places on the face of the earth. And we know that that's not the reality.
And this is why, this is why local government is so important. I mean, when you look at the people that run for county board, when you look at the people that run for school board or city council, this is where they have the greatest impact on our lives.
Yes.
And it's when people like Chad who are running, and we've got people that have stepped up over here that are running for county board. But when they see what's happening, and when they see what the potential to happen is, because of what the state's doing, because because we're in the super minority in the General Assembly, and we see how that manifests itself here in our local communities, people are stepping up, and they're running because they don't want to. I mean, they've got better things to do.
Oh yeah.
But they see where things are headed, and they're American patriots, and they want to stop it, and they want to protect our lives, the first principles that this country was founded on. They want to protect the future for our kids and our grandkids. And so, my hat's off to all these people that work very hard to campaign and win local elections. All good government starts locally.
Hey,
I agree 100%.
So, Chad,
yeah,
you have you just heard Jim's been involved for a while, and he's seen this. This is your opportunity to sit and tell us a little bit about what your plans are. I mean, we're down to 19 days.
Sure.
Tell Jim a little bit about yourself. I don't know if you want to talk about your service, talk about your messaging, and what differentiates you from the person that's currently, occupying the seat.
There's a lot of difference. If you read the WGLT interview, we're almost the same.
Public radio, for those of you.
It's a public radio here.
GLT is, yeah.
Which they did a great job on the interview. Actually, they were very polite and nice, but we're not identical. We don't have any similar views. I grew up in a small town of Taylorville, Illinois, south of Springfield. Joined the military, where it reinforced all of my values, morals, ethics. Integrity became a key phrase of mine because of the NCO creed, which integrity is valued above all things. You never tell a lie. It costs men's lives type of motto. So after the military, I got out, came to ISU, met my wife, and that's how I've lived my life with my children, trying to teach that and instill that in them and in everything I do.
Well, and running for office is a family thing. So tell us a little bit about your wife. Don't let your wife don't be just dropping your beautiful wife off like that. Yeah. Tell her how she's involved in the community, because I think that's important.
She is very much involved in the community, more so than I was. She's been a physician here in McLean County for over 20 years. Since we moved back here in 2007. And I've supported her the entire time, raising the boys, owning a couple businesses, and doing my part in politics, going to board meetings, being involved that way, writing articles and things. And this opportunity came about when Coach Mack had to step down due to his health reasons. And that's when I went before the county board and interviewed, and then didn't get it. So that's when the wife and other people said, "Hey, you need to run." And after some soul searching, asking the good Lord if that was where he wanted me, because I always have to ask him if I'm doing his bidding. I guess it was, because here we are.
Well, in that scenario, I just want to clarify for the audience a little bit. So, Chad, John stepped down. He was the chair of the county board. His seat was open, vacated by John. There was an application process. You and Randy Knapp and another person, we know him very well, that be yours truly, DPB. We all
Yep.
three applied. I didn't realize that Randy had applied. I didn't, because at one point I didn't realize he was interested any longer. I didn't realize you applied.
I didn't know you and Randy either.
We didn't know. So I thought I just was going to be the only person in the application process to fill the remaining term of John McIntyre,
Right.
or at least to fill that seat until the election. And once we found out the three of us, we got together and we said, hey, let's all go ahead and still interview.
Right.
There was a fourth person. I can't remember her name. It escapes me.
I can't either.
We all know who she was there for, because she was the favorite of the Democrats.
Yeah, they all voted for her.
Even though she was presenting herself as a Republican, which we all knew that it didn't pass the smell
5
test.
minutes of talking with her in the back room.
Yes, and then watching her cajole with the Democrat side of the aisle during her interviewing process, we knew that that
was the undercover.
Cooktail. But anyhow, you did very well presenting yourself. Randy Knapp ended up getting the position. Now he has to run for. So both of you and Randy will be on the ballot.
Yes.
In the District 5, because he is completing the 2-year term. You are running for a 4-year term.
4-year. Yes.
4-year term.
That is correct. He's running against Buck Farley. I am running against Elizabeth Johnson, who is the incumbent currently since 2018, I believe. So that's currently where we are. We're down to 19 days.
19 days.
It's been a very interesting learning experience. Again, a lot of people at the GOP headquarters have been phenomenal support, including yours truly here. Dave has been awesome. There's a lot of other names I can mention who have been phenomenal. But if I do not get elected, I have other plans. I'm not done. But I do hope to get elected to the board, because a lot of plans I have. And again, it's a big process, and I understand that. Public safety is a big one. Working with the sheriff. I want the sheriff of McLean County, Matt Lane, I want him to be the centerpiece of law enforcement, where all the other agencies go to him for all the training, all the resources. If they need backup, he is the man. His agency is the top trained, top resourced, everything, just like the Constitution dictates. It seems to me that it's the opposite now. The cities and towns are more funded, especially Bloomington and Normal, are better funded, better trained, or as trained as the sheriff's department. And it shouldn't be that way. I want our sheriff's deputies to have the best of everything that we can provide within, our budget. I want their salaries to be as the best we can, because right now they're hiring in deputies because the salary at 3 years is not competitive with the other agencies. They're quitting and going over to Normal or Bloomington, because at 3 years, I believe it's like in the 70s after 3 years at the sheriff's department. At Bloomington and Normal, it's like 106. So it's a substantial difference. And you can't blame an officer for wanting to better his family with a $30,000 difference. So I want to close that gap in either dollars or some sort of incentive. That's huge.
wise. That's wise.
We have to keep the sheriff's department as the top. The jail has to be the best, providing a place to keep the inmates so they're not shipped off to another jail, costing huge sums of money. The mental health can all be trained for the deputies. All that can be taken care of with a little bit more talking with the sheriff and all these agencies to be taken care of.
So cross-line communications
Cross-line
between
communication.
the different departments.
Yeah.
And, you're bringing up something. And, Jim, I don't know if you guys are battling this, but we have a question on the ballot, Chad, and it's to get rid of our county auditor. I don't know if you've heard about this wave. I see that Mrs. Producer put that up there. Cities 92.9 commenting, no, NPR lied about the auditor, said it's due to Anderson making a mistake. It was the treasurer's mistake. So there's a movement over here to get rid of the auditor. Michelle Anderson, she's a Republican. I that's how I act when I'm in these roles. I'm a Republican. I met with the county chair here when we were making application, and we sat down at a restaurant, and she said, I would just want to let you know I'm here on county business. I said, well, in all due respect, Chairwoman, I'm here on Republican business.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we start surrendering the values of who we are as Republicans, we want the county board to work, if they have Democrats, because there's a lot of county boards, like up in I think it's Grundy County. Is
Grundy.
That what Balcoma is?
Balcoma is in Grundy, which he's done a phenomenal job.
So they flipped that county board, and now it's 18-1 or something like that.
Yep.
Some astronaut. It used to be a divided
deficit.
Deficit, yes. And they changed that. Once again, what he told you is they used reason and common sense, and they stuck to their guns about the policies and how they pertain to the Constitution, the state law, and ultimately they won favor. They don't have to have these little nuances like the auditor. The auditor in McLean County is the 73rd highest paid position. So that means there's 72 people paid more than the county auditor. Have we done a thorough job? And this is sad because, Chad, I know you're aware of this because we talked about it. Jim, no one came to the Republican leadership to tell us about the fact that they wanted to put a ballot initiative to remove the county auditor. And it's ironic that it says on their signs around town that have vote yes, eliminate the auditor. Let me make sure I get this right because I have it. I posted it today. Eliminate the auditor, or no, vote yes, remove the auditor, eliminate wasteful spending.
Yes.
Is that right? I think
that's
correct.
That's
but
the
that's
meaning.
That's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
The auditor is the person that's actually there making sure that you don't have wasteful spending.
Right.
Exactly.
And this is the sign, and this was a supposedly a bipartisan agreement, which I'm sorry, I'm gone. Those days are gone. When the Democrats start telling us they agree with us on something, that should send up red
I'm
flag.
checking my back for the dagger.
Yeah, that's right, because we've compromised ourselves in McLean County to a 10-10 board.
Yes.
And soon it could be, unfortunately, less than 10 on our side. And that's what you're battling against. And I know Jim's got a county board. What's the ratio in your county board, Jim?
It is 100% red. And we did that, and it wasn't easy. I mean, we had 6 Democrats on the board. We got 21 people on our board. 6 of them were Democrats, and over the last 3 or 4 election cycles, we were able to vote all of them out of office and replace them with strong Republicans. That puts a target on our back, but it still, we are a red county. At the county level, we're all red.
That's
And,
great.
Yeah.
Well,
And we've had the same problem with the auditor. They wanted to eliminate the elected position of auditor and bring it in house. Well, that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, a tax-paying citizen. So,
Right.
well, so I want to make sure that I get
I'd
this
rather
right.
than be beholden to the voters.
yes,
That
Yes.
keeps them honest,
Yes.
in my opinion. Than beholden to someone that appoints them, then there might have a little connection. But sorry,
Okay.
Dave, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. I just don't want to put information out there. I want to make sure that I'm correct. The signs read as such: vote yes. And then the tagline at the bottom of the sign says, eliminate the auditor and wasteful spending.
There you go.
Eliminate the auditor and wasteful spending, which is the auditor's job, without a Frank Montino, who is our state auditor, who, believe it or not, I mean, you can only do so much. Frank has called out J.B. Pritzker as a Democrat. He has presented time after time year-end reviews that have shown that the agencies are derelict in their duties to provide accurate accounting of the dollars that have been spent. And where does that go? Do you ever hear about Frank Montino, a Democrat, and the Auditor General's report of the state of Illinois? You never hear it. So
No.
it's good to hear these things. And I know there's some infighting, and I know that opens up. You're going to hear more about that. I just want to get beyond. I mean, we've got so many big things,
So many big issues
to
in the
deal
auditor.
with. And it seems like they keep sewing in these little nuances that really don't deal with the people.
No, it's their issues. And WGLT asked me about the auditor, and my answer was no, I don't think they should change it at all. And then she said something about, well, they were holding payments or delaying payments. And I'm like, well, if you want to change that, then change the law and put date requirements or timelines, but don't change the way the auditor is elected or appointed. Change the requirements for the auditor's position lawfully. Use the laws or the Constitution as it should be.
So
Don't go around.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm
Modify
wrong,
things.
Chad.
Yes.
And I'll have to go back to the website and look at McLean County. The auditor's responsibility is for payments. I thought bills in and bills out are something that is handled by the treasurer.
That's the treasurer. So
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe she's checking the payments. And
I think it, unfortunately, two Republicans, both I know them both very well, Michelle and Rebecca. I know they got sideways about something.
I'm sure
but that's okay,
was,
because guess what? We're always going to do this. We talked earlier, but then you decide to turn that into a full out crazy cycle of
right.
people running against one another. And granted, I'm all for primaries. Hey, I just looked at the clock, and of course we could go on. I could go on sitting in studio talking for a long time. But I don't know how long the audience really wants to tune in. I could go a couple hours. I'm not a Tucker Carlson or anything, but if you haven't seen his latest interview, you need to get out there with Halpern.
Yeah.
That guy's super sharp about the political process. I think his name's Mark Halpern. Did I get that right?
Yeah, Mark Halpern.
Yeah, I mean, guy's a genius. Go out. Now that's a 2-hour one. But Jim, Chad, final remarks. We're 19 days away. What can you tell people? Give the battle cry for our audience.
Do you want to close out, Jim? I'll go first.
Go ahead. No,
Okay.
absolutely.
The biggest thing I want to say is we need to show up, get out and vote. That's the only way we're going to win locally is show up, because we have been apathetic the last few elections, and you can tell by the numbers. So I need everyone to get out, vote, all of us. So I'm begging for all of the Republicans, anyone on the fence, to vote. It is necessary. Your vote does count. Don't think it doesn't. a lot of men and women in the history and now today are serving that have fought for and protected this right. It's sacred. So please get out and vote. That's my message.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, you know, the one thing I want to leave people with is that I grew up always hearing from people, you never talk about religion and politics. But you know what? Today, we need to start having those conversations with our family, with our friends, wherever it may be. Religion and politics, look, we can't save this state without God, and we can't even try. So we've got to put aside the fear and find the courage that is in all of us, and put on His armor and start fighting. Because look, the first principles that this country was founded on are at stake, and we're going to go one way or the other. And God help us if we don't win this election.
Well, the light of the Holy Spirit has illuminated you, Jim, right there in front of
buddy.
cameras.
You're lit up.
That's right.
You got the armor right there.
I was going to say, hey, Jim, what a great segue, because one of the things I've been doing on the show here, beginning and ending, I didn't get to it today. I miss it usually on the front end, but I usually remember to end my show with a prayer. So if you guys would be kind enough, I'm going to end us in prayer, and you guys hang around, because when I end the stream, I just want to give you a personal thanks offline. So with that, dear eternal gracious Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to have a vehicle such as this, that we know now there will be many, many people that were not only watching live, but will continue to hear these messages, to learn more about Chad, to learn more about Kat Peterson and the work that she does in investigative reporting, to learn about Jim Rule and the yeoman's work he does as leading an entire county through the constitutional process of picking our new elected officials and leaders. We thank you for these two men. We thank you for the opportunity to have a voice, to have a microphone. Lord, you know our hearts. Remove anything that is not of you. Bring forth everything that you would want us to be. Guide our words, guide our actions, guide everything about us as Americans. We thank you once again for your Son, because without that, we truly have nothing. It's in his precious name we pray, and we say amen, amen, amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, I end the show, guys, by saying that I love you. I know that Jim loves you. I know Chad loves you, but Jesus loves you more. And until next Tuesday, we will be back. Get out. The polling places are open. As I said earlier in the show, North Carolina just opened up their early voting, but we have early voting is open in Illinois. Find where your voting center is. Get out and vote tonight. And if you can't do it tonight, tomorrow morning's a good time.
There you go.
Until next Tuesday, I bid you farewell.